You are making your parents' hearing worse. Yes, you are. In this video, I'm going to reveal 20 things that you're doing that are making it harder for your parent to hear you. If you want to be able to help them hear you better, reduce your stress, and lessen their feelings of isolation and improve their quality of life, then you need to watch this. Hi there, I'm Sophia, and I'm bringing you new videos every Tuesday to help you be a more successful, more satisfied, and more informed family caregiver. If you like what you hear today, please give this video a thumbs up, and if you don't want to miss any of my upcoming videos on everything senior and caregiver related, then please hit the subscribe button. More than half of our parents over 75 years old suffer disabling hearing loss, and you could be contributing to it. It's really important to do everything we can to help minimize the negative effects of hearing loss for our parents, because hearing loss is linked to isolation and depression. The good news is that once you're aware of how you might be contributing to their not hearing, then it's easy to make changes. Here are 20 things that you might be doing that make it harder for your parent to hear you, and how to correct. The first thing is to realize that your parent hears you better when they can read your lips. So you need to make sure that they can see your mouth. It sounds pretty basic, but sometimes it's hard to remember to do. So stop holding items in front of your face, such as papers and pencils and your hands. I'm sometimes guilty of pushing my glasses up and holding them in place, but if my dad is sitting over here, then he can't see my mouth. The second thing that you might be doing is having hair covering your mouth, such as a beard or a mustache or long hair. So if you're a male, consider trimming back your mustache or beard to make sure your mouth is more visible. And for us females, you can tie your hair back or wear it in a style that doesn't cover your face, or you can get brave and cut it short like me. Remember that rule about not talking with your mouth full? Well, it's really relevant when someone is trying to read your lips. So stop eating and chewing gum while you're trying to communicate with your parent. And smoking while you're talking also might distort your mouth while you're talking, so avoid that too. Number 4 is not your fault, but if you have thin or very pale lips, they could be harder to read. So try putting on some dark lipstick to help your parent read your lips better. When I don't have any lipstick on like this, it's harder to see and read my lips compared to this. Isn't it much easier to see my lips when I have this dark lipstick on? So help your parent out by wearing some dark lipstick, and it might just make you feel good too. Another thing that you're doing that's contributing to their not hearing you is not making sure that you have their full attention before you speak. You might be talking to them from behind them or even from another room, and that'll never help them hear you better. You need to get right up in front of them, touch them on the arm, say their name, and make eye contact and make sure that you have their full attention before you talk. I once did a home visit with an elderly lady who lived with her son who worked out of the home. She was sitting in the family room with the TV on loud, and he was working in the home office in a nook over to the side of the family room. He was busy and he would try to talk to her from the other room, and it just wasn't working. He actually said to me, "My mom is demented. You ask her a question and her answer is way out in left field. Nothing gets through to her." Well, I sat right in front of her on the ottoman, and I made eye contact, and I introduced myself, and I asked her some questions. And she went on to tell me her story and about her son and her family and a bit about her life. You know what? Her son came up in amaze and said, "Oh my God, she hasn't spoken that lucidly for months." And that's because he never took the time to accommodate her hearing loss. She wasn't demented. She was hard of hearing, and he didn't even know that. And it was really sad to me that he didn't take the time to interact with her properly. But luckily, it was an easy fix for him. You're not paying attention to how you speak. Speak clearly, enunciate your words, but don't exaggerate. If you have a higher pitched voice like me, lower the tone of your voice. My voice tends to get high pitched when I'm in a hurry or when I'm excited, so when my dad can't hear me and says, "What?" it's a reminder for me to lower my tone and to slow down a bit. Talk a little bit louder, but don't yell. You speak to your parent casually like you would with anyone else. When we speak casually, we use contractions, those nice short words that are a combination of two other words put together. But saying the word cannot is much easier to lip read than the word can't. And saying he will is much easier than he'll. This will take a little more practice on your part because we all use contractions in our everyday language when we're having a normal conversation. But by avoiding using contraction, it's going to greatly help your parent hear you better. The 8th way that you might be contributing to your parent not understanding or hearing you correctly is that you're not using gestures when you talk to them in order to clarify your message. Your parent will hear you better if you use gestures such as, "It's time to eat," or "Are you cold?" The next one is to pay attention to your body language. When you're stressed, you look angry, and that's why also you don't want to yell your words to make them hear you better, because your parent might feel like you're mad at them, even when you're not. So when I was trained to work with hearing impaired seniors, this example was used and it's always stuck with me. So I'm going to say 2 things to you, but I'm not going to let any sound come out of my mouth. And you go ahead and interpret what I'm saying. And I'm only going to say each word 1 time because often you only get 1 chance to be interpreted by your parent. So write it down in the comments, the 2 words that you think that I'm saying. Okay, here's the first one. And here is the second word. Okay, so what do you think those 2 words were? Be sure to write them in the comments below. What I said the first time was failure, and what I said the second time was also failure. When I had an angry face and a tense body language, you just might have thought I said something negative. A lot of people think I said the F word, but I would never. Or people interpret what I said the first time as being just negative and that I was angry. For the second word, people often don't get the word right, but they'll guess it's something neutral like figure. So pay attention to the expression on your face and your body language so that you're not misinterpreted in a bad way. Next, look for that dazed and confused look as a tell, as they say in poker, as a cue that you need to clarify what you said. My dad has a tell. When he doesn't understand something, he gets this distant look in his eyes and he'll look away and go, "Yeah." That's my way of knowing he didn't hear what I said, so I need to repeat it. So pay attention. Another thing that you're doing that hinders the way your parent hears you is to keep repeating the same thing over and over when they don't hear you. Instead, say it in a different way. So instead of saying, "I have to go to work, I have to go to work, I have to go to work," change it up and say, "I'm leaving for work now." You know your parent better than anyone, so if you know that they have worse hearing on one side or one ear, then remember to go to their good side when you're speaking to them. This next communication tip is counterintuitive. Sometimes it's easier to ask yes or no questions because it seems simpler, but if their response is yes or no, you can't really be sure that they understood the question. So ask open-ended questions. It takes a little more time, but the outcome will be much better. Instead of asking, "Do you want a sweater?" and getting no for an answer, get in front of them, touch their arm, say their name, make eye contact, use gestures, all the things you've learned, and say, "It's cold outside. Do you want your blue sweater or your red sweater?" They'll be much more likely to understand your question, and they'll give you an answer that makes you sure that they heard the question correctly. The first way of asking, "Do you want a sweater?" if they respond no, you'd have no way of really knowing that they may have mistakenly heard you say, "Do you like the weather?" And because it's cold, they say no, and you wouldn't have given them a sweater. So use your open-ended questions because this can be really helpful. Write important information down on a piece of paper or have them repeat it back to you to make sure that they heard it correctly. There are some environmental things that you can control that will help your parent hear you better. Background noise in the home environment can really contribute to your parent not hearing well and therefore not communicating well. So watch for the noise from cooking, from TV and music and people talking. Try to minimize that background noise when you're trying to say something important. Another thing about the environment that you might be forgetting to pay attention to is lighting. While you want good lighting so they can see your face, you don't want to speak to them from in front of a window or other light source. For instance, when I move over here in front of the window, you can see it's much more difficult to see my face with the bright light behind me. So move your chair at the dinner table or your chair in the family room if it's in front of a window. You can switch places if you have to so your parent can see you better. Also in the home, you can arrange furniture so that they can see you coming. Notice where they sit to watch the television and make sure that their back is not to where you're cooking and people are coming into the room and speaking to them. Position yourself around furniture according to how they best hear and understand you. For instance, if your parent uses primarily lip reading, then it's best to sit across from them at the table or use an L-shaped couch where they can better see your face, but not too far away. But if they primarily listen with their ears, then sitting right close next to them would be better for them. There's also some things that you're not doing when it comes to communication around other people. If there's an interesting conversation going on in the room, repeat what other people in the room are saying to your parent. This is going to increase their involvement in the gathering and reduce their isolation. And lastly, if someone asks them a question that they didn't hear, don't answer it for them. Repeat the question for them in a way that they can hear and allow them to answer the question themselves. Don't forget that having a hearing deficit can be exhausting for your parent, always having to pay attention to everything. Imagine if you had to go around always squinting your eyes in order to see things clearly. Squinting while you shopped and while you cooked and while you watched TV. You just might want to close your eyes and stop trying. Well, that's how your parent might feel when it comes to hearing. But they can't squint their ears to hear things better, so you have to be the one to help them out because you're the one who can. You have the ability to make changes that will drastically improve communication and understanding for your parent, at the same time improving their quality of life and reducing their isolation and feelings of depression. If you found other things that help with communicating with your parent, please leave me a message. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit the like button, and if you don't want to miss any new videos coming up on everything senior and caregiver related, then hit the subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching.